A glowing blue key symbol appears on the protagonist's palm. A system message displays. Perk 3, Silver Key. A room key to a forgotten castle. The holder can always deposit and withdraw items from the Room of Silver. It adds, currently equipped on your left hand. The protagonist opens his hand as a shimmering light surrounds it. Items materialize from thin air, and he explains, in other words, a subspace artifact. This confirms the silver key grants access to an inventory-like space. A knight looks on in shock as a flowered herb materializes before him from the summoned items, showing visible surprise at the magical storage in action. A small bundle appears, a cloth with a plant laid on top. The knight observes and says, a dragon soul plant and a cloth. A description appears below. Dragon soul plant, a natural tonic. It has the ability to make one calm. The white-haired man steps forward with a serious expression, raising his hand. He calmly says, please stand back. The injured knight behind him looks on, holding the cloth and flower, visibly tense. A close-up shows the protagonist gripping the spear tightly with both hands, wrapping the cloth securely around it. He looks forward with determination and warns, it'll get rough. Blue energy begins to pulse around him, building up for the next clash. The armor man reacts with shock and confusion, exclaiming as he notices something unexpected. The scene reveals the white-haired protagonist standing firmly with a spear. The armored man yells, what are you doing? You're not even a combatant, while a large beast charges toward them. Grimacing and holding his wounded shoulder, the armored man grits his teeth. He thinks to himself, damn it, even if I die, I can't die an embarrassing death behind a miner. Showing his pride is pushing him to fight despite his injury. The armored man is suddenly engulfed in a wave of intense energy. His body reacts violently, eyes wide in fear, as if his instincts know something terrifying is approaching. A monstrous beast, shrouded in red energy, descends from above with a thunderous roar. The air is trembling under its pressure. The protagonist stands unfazed, facing the threat head-on, spear in hand. The injured knight collapses to the ground, trembling uncontrollably. His face is frozen in fear, completely overwhelmed by the presence of the monster and the chaotic energy flooding the battlefield. The soldier stares forward with wide eyes, sweat rolling down his face. In a state of panic, he mutters to himself, yeah, I remember. He recalls a story once told by his senior back when he was still new. The memory begins. A peaceful village is shown engulfed in flames. Chaos erupts as dark debris flies across the sky. The scene sets the tone for an incoming disaster. Villagers are seen in distress. A man, likely a farmer, grips a pitchfork tightly while standing defensively. A woman stands behind him, panicked. Everyone prepares to defend themselves from an unseen threat. The next moment shows a brutal attack. A massive black tendril swings through, hitting the villagers. The narration confirms, a few years ago, when an adult predator attacked a nearby village. The creature is revealed in full form. A towering beast with sharp claws and rows of deadly fangs looms over the survivors. Its monstrous presence silences the village as it prepares to strike again. A man with a serious expression looks ahead, sweat on his face, signaling tension and realization as he recalls something important. A close-up of his eye, wide open and trembling, shows intense fear or shock as the memory floods back. A massive black object or appendage rapidly swings toward the man's neck from the left, creating a strong sense of impending danger. Back to the present, the injured soldier sits frozen in place, surrounded by darkness. Text reveals his grim realization. In the face of overwhelming power, all the villagers could do was wait their turn to die. The soldier stares ahead, wide-eyed and trembling, overwhelmed by what he's witnessing. Blinding blue streaks of energy flash across the scene, accompanied by a sharp, resonating sound. In shock, the soldier tries to process the sight before him, unable to comprehend what's unfolding. A A spear wrapped in cloth swings with incredible force, cutting through the air as blue energy trails behind it. The monster lets out a furious roar, signaling it's ready to fight. Its jaws stretch wide as it unleashes a deafening screech. The white-haired man braces himself, gripping his spear tightly. With a burst of speed, he launches forward toward the monster. Mid-air, his expression remains focused. He observes that the calming agent is working just as expected. It's suppressing fear effectively. A status window explains. The dragon soul plant is a natural tonic that calms the mind. His skill Hermes Vision enhances medical item effects by 500%, amplifying the plant's impact. The white-haired man readies his spear and prepares to fight. He reveals that out of his 9 perks, only one is a weapon, but consumes too much magic power to use now. He channels energy into his hand and prepares a technique, stating it's more than enough for a weak opponent like this monster. He activates his poison-based skill using the 70-second venom of the Venom King, number 68 Burial, coating his spear in a deadly green fluid, readying for a lethal strike. A white-haired man asks if it's really okay to share a lifelong recipe. The other man replies there's no point in hiding it now that the world has fallen, saying it's better to let everyone use it than to let it rot. Back in the present, the white-haired man charges at the monster, hoping his poison can kill one more enemy and save at least one more person. The white-haired warrior thrusts his weapon forward with great force, ready to strike with precision. A close-up of Fade shows a satisfied expression as he says he couldn't ask for more, clearly content with the white-haired man using his creation. The poison spear pierces its target, green venom dripping and black blood splattering from the impact. The white-haired warrior swings his spear, unleashing a powerful venom-infused strike toward the monster. The monster reels in agony, its body convulsing violently from the impact of the poisonous attack. As the monster screams in pain, the narration reveals the venom's deadly effect. Created from common herbs, it enters the bloodstream and destroys internal organs. The protagonist explains that the venom causes excruciating pain because the Venom King, its creator, was a sadist. The protagonist faces off against the monster, calculating that it will take 3 minutes for the venom to spread through its entire body. He knows he must survive until then. Without using his spear, the protagonist launches a barrage of rapid punches into the monster's abdomen, keeping it staggered while the venom takes effect. The monster swings its tail with immense force, radiating energy. It charges at the white-haired man, who stands ready as the ground shatters behind him. The tail strike sends the man crashing into a wall with great impact. His eyes widen in shock, realizing the overwhelming power of the attack. The monster opens its massive jaws, ready to devour the white-haired man head-on. The man leaps directly into the monster's mouth and hurls a green vial, saying, "This is for you." The monster crashes into a wall as the man flips away, having delivered the poison attack. The protagonist slams his weapon into the monster with full force, piercing its upper body while it lets out a pained scream. The monster's mouth is wide open, gushing out black liquid, indicating internal damage from the venom or a critical injury. The protagonist observes the situation with urgency, calculating the time left until the venom fully activates. Only 1 minute remains. The protagonist tightly grips his weapon, signaling determination for the final clash. He readies his stance, acknowledging that he can't outrun the monster with his current abilities. He contemplates his 2 options: wait for the venom to kill it or end it himself. He chooses to deliver the finishing blow, channeling energy into his weapon and striking the monster directly. The monster swings its tail at high speed, but the white-haired man narrowly dodges the strike. As the tail passes by, he immediately grabs it with both hands, stopping its momentum. The monster retaliates by forcefully lifting him into the air using its tail. The white-haired man grits his teeth, holding tightly onto the monster's tail as he struggles to maintain control. He waits for the perfect moment, urging himself to hold on just a bit longer. As he reaches the right height and angle, he lets go of the tail at the exact moment he needs. Using the momentum from being flung, he launches into the air with his spear glowing, aiming directly at the monster below, ready to strike. The protagonist leaps into the air with his weapon raised, aiming directly at the monster below. He drives the spear straight into the monster's red eye with full force. The monster screams in pain as the spear pierces into it, with the protagonist standing over it, preparing to strike again. The white-haired man is flung back by the monster's powerful counterattack, crashing hard into the ground. As the spear spins out of control through the air, he swiftly catches it mid-flight. Without hesitation, he drives the spear down with deadly precision, stabbing the monster again and declaring coldly, "Take one more." The protagonist swiftly draws a dagger from his waist. With a calm expression, he lifts the blade and prepares for another strike. Without hesitation, he drives the dagger deep into the monster's body, delivering a brutal blow. The monster shrieks in pain as the protagonist hangs onto it, stabbing with force while the creature thrashes wildly. He braces himself on the monster's back, gripping his dagger tightly. He digs his fingers into its flesh for support as the beast moves violently. With a determined expression, he climbs toward the monster's head, his dagger ready. He finally drives the dagger deep into the monster's red eye, signaling a critical blow. The protagonist, battered but relentless, prepares for the final blow. He firmly grips the embedded weapon lodged in the monster's head and launches himself upward, ready to strike one last decisive hit. The protagonist narrates that he has returned to 10 years ago, with improved strength and a better body than his opponent. He reveals that he had prepared something in advance for this moment. He introduces recovery water, which boosts magic power when consumed in large amounts. With his perk, Vision of Hermes, potion effects are amplified by 500%, making even basic potions more effective than rare elixirs. He shows a large stash of recovery water, stating it's enough to pierce the predator's skull. The protagonist channels swirling magic power through his clenched fist, preparing for a powerful attack. He slams his glowing hand onto the embedded weapons, activating a magic technique called Discharge. A massive beam of energy erupts from the weapons, piercing directly through the monster's head, delivering a devastating final blow. A knight is shown kneeling, clutching his injured arm. Bloodstains are visible on his clothes, and he lets out a faint laugh. A flashback unfolds as the knight recalls a conversation. He believed that recommending someone to the HR department with a manager's authority would be enough to move them to the hunter team. The white-haired protagonist, however, was unimpressed by the offer and clarified that a cobalt dungeon wasn't enough to earn his cooperation, stating he's not some kind of beggar. The protagonist reflects and states, "It was a grave misunderstanding." The narrator reflects that even without favor, the man's potential would have been recognized and led to advancement. But currently, the man is just a minor, incapable of even entering a dungeon. The narrator states that the man requires a pass, which is himself, to gain dungeon access. The protagonist approaches and directly calls out to Gerda, initiating a serious conversation. The scene opens in a forest at sunrise, with heavy breathing sounds echoing through the trees, indicating tension or exhaustion. A bloodied sword lies beside a corpse. A man, wounded and breathing heavily, stands nearby, clearly shaken and alert. A terrified man falls back in panic, pleading for his life. He denies involvement as a muscular warrior with a spike flail approaches menacingly. The muscular man swings his chained weapon while confronting the accused, sarcastically reminding him that they entered the temple together. The masked figure named Sahak watches in silence as the accused pleads desperately for him to believe his innocence. With panic and tears in his eyes, the blond man screams that he's not a devil worshiper, denying the accusations in fear. The hooded cult leader with glowing red eyes gives a chilling command to crush the accused man. The muscular executioner follows the order and violently slams his spiked weapon down, blood splattering from the impact. A wide shot reveals multiple victims brutally struck, their bodies lifeless as the spiked ball swings through the air. One of the victims remains barely alive, twitching in a pool of blood, his body trembling from the fatal blow. A small centipede-like creature crawls out from a man's mouth, indicating something sinister or parasitic. A large, monstrous centipede with red markings emerges violently from his mouth, suggesting a transformation or possession. A cloaked swordsman unleashes a powerful, explosive attack, likely in response to the centipede's appearance. The sword is shown glowing with red energy as the narrator remarks that the parasitic centipede has revealed itself. The swordsman accuses the man of being a devil worshipper, now certain due to the centipede's emergence. A narrator reveals that to find a single traitor, one man slaughtered 7 members. A man stands by a bright window, calmly questioning the logic of killing 7 people for a 1 in 7 chance. The seated man responds, comparing the situation to burning down an entire house just to kill 1 bug, while the focus shifts to a jar containing a parasitic centipede. The man reminds Examiner Matthias how the enemy operates, stating they must assume all remaining members are already infected. He warns there is only 1 month left before the raid. If the heretics aren't removed quickly, the consequences will be severe. The superior agrees to handle the complaints but starts making his own demands. He insists on seeing results and warns the investigator not to act rashly as a member of the Department of Heresy Investigators. The investigator responds with compliance, saying, "Yes, sir." The panel shows a large, official-looking building under the golden light of dawn, setting the scene. A sign reads, Department of Human Resources, indicating the location inside the building. Inside, a formal registration is underway. The hooded team leader Gerda is submitting a request form for a nominee named Zephyr from the mining team, who joined this week. The clerk begins processing the form. The officer explains that if a team recruits a nominee from another department and that nominee performs poorly, it will lower the team's performance rating. The armored man agrees without hesitation, while thinking to himself that it's obvious. The helmeted man grins while looking at Zephyr and thinks to himself that if Zephyr performs well, the credit will go to him. He continues grinning internally, thinking how lucky he is to have received such an opportunity. A flashback sequence is about to begin. A character reacts in shock, yelling, "What? What are you talking about?" suggesting confusion or denial. The white-haired man stands in front of a large slain monster. The armored man accuses him of pretending the creature, the predator, didn't exist. The white-haired man calmly replies, "Yes." A knight looks shocked and questions if the plan is to get rid of the monster's body. The white-haired man calmly explains he'll only dispose of the predator, leaving the other monsters behind and framing the scene as a cobalt lair. It's revealed that slaves cannot claim dungeon rewards like corpses or items. Anything they obtain belongs to the temple by default. Zephyr explains that while combat slaves can't claim dungeon loot, they can earn bonuses based on performance and loot value. He suggests handing over the body to a broker for more profit. The armored man argues it's impossible because the surveillance and post-processing teams are specifically there to monitor and collect all loot, making such actions risky. Zephyr smirks confidently and hints he has a different idea, saying, "But what about this?" implying he has a trick or loophole in mind. He places his hand on the monster's body, revealing a glowing key-shaped symbol on his palm. A powerful surge of energy bursts out as he activates a hidden ability. The energy swirls around him, surprising the knight as the body begins to vanish. The knight is shocked, realizing it's subspace magic, but doubts it could hold something so massive. The monster's body disappears completely, leaving no trace behind, not even its blood. The white-haired protagonist calmly calls out Gerda's name, hinting he's about to make a serious offer or suggestion. He turns with determination, energy swirling around him, and asks Gerda if he wants a promotion, implying he's offering a way to rise in status. The white-haired man offers Gerda a deal. He will help him clear 3 dungeons and keep the clearing rewards, but in exchange, he wants the monsters' bodies. Gerda explains that promotional exams are influenced by dungeon clears and battle count. As a patrol team with limited battles, this opportunity matters even if it's a low-level dungeon. Gerda reflects that having an overpowered member changes everything. As the patrol team enters first, they can secure the dungeon alone. If they clear it with minimal members, his rank will increase. Gerda reflects on the deal. He wants a promotion while Zephyr is only after money. He sees it as a fair trade, as long as they aren't caught. Zephyr plans to sell the Predator for a high price to repay his debt and escape the temple. But before that, he has something important to accomplish. He reveals a future event, the Great Raid with the Temple Knights, scheduled within a month, where a powerful and game-changing item will be discovered. Zephyr is determined to join the raid and obtain that item, believing it is the key to altering the future. Zephyr's registration is finalized, officially placing him under the hunting team. The scene shifts to a wide view of the plaza, showing daily temple life continuing under the morning sun. Zephyr recalls his past life, where he joined too late and missed the raid. He now understands that only 20 members will be allowed to join, and he'll need exceptional achievements or strong connections to secure a spot. Zephyr thinks to himself that he has a plan and is only waiting for the right moment to act. A guard explains the location of the supply depot, and Zephyr says he'll go visit the infirmary to check on Dale and Marco. A guard warns Zephyr about any remaining luggage, but he suddenly sees a large, intimidating figure approaching and reacts in surprise. The guard urgently tells Zephyr to bow his head as a powerful or important figure arrives. A close-up of Zephyr's foot stepping forward, signaling determination as he begins to move. A group of prisoners is being marched forward under guard, with a massive, muscular man leading the line. Zephyr bows respectfully as a hooded, high-ranking figure with a sword walks past him. The hooded figure glances sideways, sensing something suspicious or threatening. Zephyr and others bow respectfully as a group in robes with red crosses on their backs walks past. A soldier lets out a sigh of relief. The soldier explains that the group is the Heresy Examiner's team, consisting of his direct slaves. He warns Zephyr that these slaves are considered a higher rank than normal and are dangerous. They've attacked people without reason, even for minor incidents like not greeting them or bumping into them. Sahak, known as the Mad Dog, is introduced. He joined the Heresy Examiners to freely kill. Once he chooses a target, he never lets go. Sahak suddenly addresses someone with a sharp, "Hey," shocking both the nearby soldier and Zephyr. Close-up of Sahaku's intense eye, indicating he's locked on his something or someone. The soldier panics, sweating nervously, and fears that Sahak might have overheard their conversation. The cloaked man stops and says, "Excuse me a second. Something is bothering me a bit," while turning his attention towards someone in the crowd. He points directly at a white-haired man dressed in rough clothes and says, "You there, dressed like a miner." The cloaked man pulls back his hood, revealing his face, and introduces himself confidently. "My name is Sahak of the Heresy Examiners." He follows up with a command. "State your name and department." A close-up of the white-haired man's eyes, sharp and focused, indicating he's not someone to underestimate. A team member steps in nervously, trying to defend Zephyr by explaining he's a new transfer and offering to take responsibility as the team leader. Sahak glares with intense fury and cuts him off, saying, "Shut up. Nobody asked you." A powerful aura erupts around Sahak as he steps forward, overwhelming the team leader with sheer pressure. The team leader's eyes widen in fear as he trembles, internally gasping at Sahak's energy. What a murderous aura! Sahak steps forward confidently, while Zephyr and another man stand tense, watching his approach. A close-up of Sahak's face as he confirms to himself, "It's certain." Sahak observes Zephyr, acknowledging that his presence leaves no room for error, even when standing still. Both men lock eyes, with an intense, silent confrontation building between Sahak and Zephyr. Sahak internally reflects that most people wouldn't have noticed anything unusual. He reveals that his heightened senses make him aware of what others can't detect. As realization hits, he grits his teeth and thinks to himself, "This bastard." The truth is revealed. Zephyr is a high-level expert, surrounded by an overwhelming aura of power. Sahak connects the dots. Zephyr is dressed like a miner, meaning he originally belonged to the mining team before being transferred. A flashback explains that all new slaves are tested in strength and magic before department assignment. Strong ones are offered a chance to join the hunting team, which always needs recruits. Sahak finds it strange that someone with such overwhelming power like Zephyr was assigned to the mining team at all before being transferred. He senses something off. This situation isn't normal. With a suspicious glare, Sahak concludes that something about Zephyr is completely unnatural. The cloaked examiners swiftly move into position, responding to a command. They surround Zephyr, forming a circle around him, ready for confrontation. Sahak acknowledges that Zephyr is indeed an expert, but believes he's not so powerful that he can't be captured. With a sinister grin, Sahak steps forward and says he will ask Zephyr a few questions. He instructs Zephyr to answer honestly and calmly. But Zephyr smirks and mocks him internally, calling him pathetic and sarcastically asking why he came out of hiding. Sahak and his men remain cautious, keeping their distance as the air grows tense around Zephyr. Sahak begins the interrogation by asking, "Have you ever heard about a demon god worshipper?" He continues his explanation regarding them. Sahak narrates that there wasn't anyone who knew more about them than him. Demon god worshippers serve the demon god Tartaros. They are humanity's greatest traitors, destined to bring ruin in the battles to come. Sahak explains that lower-ranked members only need to know that demon god worshippers are a newly formed opposition religion, clashing with the established order. He adds that there are certain traits that make these individuals stand out from ordinary people. Sahak claims he's been praised for noticing such discrepancies and chosen to serve under Lord Marches of the Heretics Inquisitors. With sharp eyes and growing suspicion, Sahak states that his instincts are warning him. Zephyr is dangerous. Zephyr stands still and composed, even as a blade is pointed directly at him. Sahak raises his sword and declares that from this moment on, Zephyr must answer truthfully. Anything he says can be used against him as part of the Heretics Inquisitor's authority. Before complying, Zephyr calmly asks if he can pose one question first. One of the Inquisitors reacts angrily, but Sahak smirks and gives permission. "Go ahead." Zephyr requests a location change for the conversation. Sahak, confused, asks what's wrong with the current place. Zephyr points out that there are too many people watching them from the surroundings. He warns that if something unfortunate were to happen, it might affect Sahak's honor as a Heretics Inquisitor. Sahak is caught off guard by his boldness. Sahak smirks and mocks Zephyr's overflowing confidence, asking if he truly believes he can take on 5 men alone. Sahak, unfazed by Zephyr's confidence, accepts the challenge, thinking to himself that people like him only motivate his pride further. He unleashes his power, declaring his pride in his role as a Heretics Inquisitor, while energy surges around him. A massive red magic formation appears on the ground, with the Inquisitors positioned at each corner and Zephyr trapped at the center. A system message reveals the skill, Red Field. It boosts the abilities of all allies within the formation. The more users there are, the stronger and longer-lasting the effect. The equipment also compensates for Sahak's lack of full mastery. The red-hooded warrior stands ready, cloaked in swirling red energy, fully powered up inside the magical formation. The white-haired protagonist smirks, intrigued by the display, saying it's finally getting interesting. He shifts into a martial arts stance, crossing his hands with precise control, preparing for the fight. Now fully focused, he adjusts his posture and calmly says, "Let's go with this," ready to face the enemy head-on. The cloaked man is shocked, questioning the strange stance his opponent just took. He's unsure whether to attack immediately or wait. He assumes it's just an unusual martial art and wonders if it's worth waiting, but quickly dismisses that thought, thinking that's what most people would assume. He charges forward, fully confident in his strength within the red field, declaring that no one can surpass him there. The red-haired enemy activates a skill called Accelerate, increasing his speed drastically. With enhanced speed, he launches a flurry of rapid attacks at the white-haired protagonist. The protagonist calmly counters with a composed martial arts stance, ready to respond precisely. Despite the speed boost, the red-haired enemy's movements are being read and avoided with ease. The white-haired fighter channels his energy into a sharp, focused strike, his form precise and his expression unwavering. The red-cloaked enemy gets hit squarely in the forehead, blood spurting out as the force of the strike lands clean and fast. In a clean follow-through, the white-haired man steps past his opponent, who is now on the ground, unconscious or defeated, his weapon slipping from his grasp. The enemy uses a clone attack, kicking at full strength while aiming for a decisive blow. He smirks, thinking his attack has landed successfully. His expression shifts to shock as he realizes something is wrong. He discovers the white-haired fighter's leg feels unnaturally solid, like striking a steel pipe. A clenched fist is shown, emphasizing the sudden tension and aggression. Zephyr unleashes a powerful barrage of punches, brutally pummeling Sahak in a fit of controlled rage. Sahak groans in pain, clearly overwhelmed by the unexpected attack. Zephyr throws Sahak's weapon away, fully asserting dominance in the confrontation. Zephyr stands firm in a battle stance, while Sahak lies defeated on the ground, his sword knocked away. A knight urgently yells, warning Zephyr about his right side. Zephyr blocks a chained round weapon flying toward him, intercepting it with his forearm. Zephyr's eyes narrow with focus and tension as he realizes the threat isn't over. Zephyr dashes away as a massive shockwave tears through the ground behind him, causing intense destruction. A towering brute swings a giant spiked ball chained to a handle. Zephyr stands calmly, analyzing the threat. The brute grins menacingly and says, "Hey, come and play with me too," signaling the start of his attack. Zephyr mocks his opponent for finally speaking, sarcastically suggesting he try talking to others or they'll mistake him for a pet. The muscular warrior swings his chain-spiked weapon with full force, aiming at Zephyr. The spiked weapon crashes violently into the ground, sending rocks and debris flying. The impact causes panic among the onlookers as rocks fly toward them. They scream and try to dodge. One of the soldiers, visibly nervous, watches Zephyr and mutters that he's a scary guy. Sahak lies unconscious on the ground, while the narrator acknowledges Zephyr's overwhelming strength and unfamiliar martial arts that defeated Sahak instantly. The narrator observes how the large man's morning star flail is smashing the ground and sending debris toward Zephyr. Despite the flail's destructive power, Zephyr effortlessly blocks all incoming attacks and debris. Zephyr counters with a powerful strike of his own, launching an attack back at the large man. A soldier nervously wonders what will happen if Zephyr wins. He realizes that Sahak would be too humiliated to report his defeat and request an official arrest warrant. The crowd around Zephyr starts to cheer him on. Another man thinks if Zephyr wins, they can avoid interrogation. But if he loses, he'll be arrested too. Two bystanders watch the battle. One confidently declares it's over for Zephyr, expressing pity for him. The other, surprised, simply asks, "What?" Zephyr is shown calmly dodging and deflecting the morning star flail attacks using his sharp reflexes, surrounded by red energy. The narration notes that while he's defended flawlessly, time has passed. A close-up of the glowing red chain flying through the air is shown, with narration saying, "It should be about time." Zephyr grips the chain with both hands, his body glowing red, revealing his full control over the weapon and the energy around him. Zephyr overpowers his opponent by yanking the chain down. The large warrior who once wielded the flail is now helplessly pulled toward Zephyr. Text narration says, while Redfield is being maintained, indicating that a special ability or zone called red field is active. A close-up of Zephyr's arm, veins bulging and glowing with red energy, showing he's powering up inside the red field. Sahak, the bald, muscular man, charges forward through the swirling chains of red energy, preparing to attack. A close-up of Zephyr's foot stepping forward with force, cracking the ground, signaling his readiness to counter. Zephyr's eye is shown in sharp focus, filled with intense determination, suggesting he has anticipated the enemy's move. The narration states, "Everyone else," hinting at the growing danger. Sahako launches a sudden attack, his sword glowing with red energy as it strikes toward Zephyr. The narration continues, "Will get stronger the more time passes." Sahaku unleashes a powerful red energy slash at Zephyr, the battlefield filled with destructive force. With a sinister smile, Sahaku raises his blade and says, "Playtime is over now." Sahaku, with his sword engulfed in red flames, warns Zephyr that he should have begged for his life from the start, threatening to make him regret his decision. Sahaku, radiating intense red energy, charges toward Zephyr with his sword ready for an attack. Sahaku accelerates at high speed, rushing straight at Zephyr with a powerful strike. Zephyr braces himself as multiple red energy slashes from Sahaku close in on him, filling the area with lethal attacks. Sahaka laughs confidently, mocking Zephyr by saying he can't see anything. Zephyr's face is grazed by a sharp strike, showing Sahaku's speed and precision. Sahaka boasts that all his abilities have increased by 80%, declaring that Zephyr won't stand a chance against his overwhelming speed. Sahaka charges at Zephyr, telling him to die as he accepts his fate, while Zephyr remains focused and calm under the barrage of attacks. Sahaka bursts into crazed laughter, confident in his advantage. Zephyr counters with a powerful chain strike, landing a clean hit on Sahaku's head. The impact sends Sahaku crashing violently into the ground, creating a massive shockwave. Sahaku, battered and in shock, struggles to process the overwhelming blow. Zephyr grabs Sahaku by the head, holding him firmly with a chain wrapped around his arm. He mocks him, asking what's wrong with their teamwork. Zephyr slams Sahaka down with a powerful strike, overwhelming him completely. Sahaka screams in pain, blood spraying from his mouth, showing he's been brutally defeated. The narration reveals disbelief, stating that despite the speed boost from the red field, along with increased defense, none of it mattered. Zephyr has Sahaku pinned to the ground with a chain, mocking him for darting around uselessly like a fly, leaving his ally unable to intervene. Zephyr smirks and remarks that if Sahaku wanted to boast about his speed, he should have paired with a stronger tanker to back him up. A chain rushes forward as someone yells in anger, calling their opponent a curse. The bald, muscular man yanks the chain aggressively, shouting for Zephyr to come closer. Zephyr remains calm, his hand clenched around the chain, staring at his opponent as he says, "Yeah." With a cold glare, Zephyr insults his opponent, questioning why he isn't properly tanking with his build. Zephyr's eyes narrow sharply as he mocks, asking if his opponent is afraid of close-range combat. Zephyr recalls his past life, thinking that if his subordinates had managed their teams this poorly, he would have taught them a lesson. He explains the basics of utilizing magic, buffs. Zephyr channels his power into the chains, shouting as energy surges through them. He unleashes a powerful attack, striking down his opponent with overwhelming force. The onlookers are shocked as the battlefield lies in ruins with Zephyr standing victorious over his defeated enemies. Sahaku, battered and kneeling on the ground, demands to know Zephyr's true identity. Zephyr smirks, mocking Sahaku for expecting an impressive revelation, and dismisses the question as unworthy. Turning away, Zephyr coldly states that Sahaka doesn't have the right to know the answer, leaving him humiliated and defeated. A man with long red hair watches Zephyr through a large window, silently observing him after the fight. The red-haired man covers his mouth in shock, thinking to himself that it can't be possible and recognizing the figure outside. He looks serious and tense, suspecting that Zephyr was intentionally sent here for them. The crowd is shocked, questioning what they just witnessed and trying to understand the situation. Sahak is on the ground, defeated. He clenches the dirt in frustration as the white-haired man walks away, unfazed. A bystander quietly confirms the outcome. Mr. Sahak has lost. Sahak grits his teeth, blood and sweat dripping down his face. His eye burns with disbelief and humiliation. Sahak screams in rage, swearing and threatening to kill the white-haired man. The man, unfazed, calmly responds that it's noisy. The white-haired man reflects that the first phase of his plan is complete and implies that the next move depends on someone hearing about this event. He walks away down a secluded path, confident that it's only a matter of time before the next stage unfolds. Just as he prepares to name his next target, he suddenly stops, sensing something wrong. He drops to one knee, clutching the ground in pain. His body trembles. He realizes he can't move a muscle. A wave of pain and weakness overwhelms him. He understands it's mana freezing, a condition triggered when a user runs out of mana, causing intense physical backlash. He realizes his mana ran out faster than expected after using that martial art and starts feeling the consequences. As he struggles with the pain and weakness, a message appears. The collection begins. A mysterious spirit descends from above, glowing with power. The spirit introduces itself as the spirit of Shylock, from the family of the great god of dead, USRA. The spirit confirms that the user's mana has dropped to 0 and initiates the collection of the skill Wall of Iron. The protagonist explains that Wall of Iron isn't just a defensive skill. It hides a dangerous truth. All the damage and fatigue that were held back by the skill get converted into a debt. Once mana runs out, the user receives all the accumulated damage at once. Many adventurers tried mastering this skill for high-level dungeons, but they all ended up dead, bankrupted by the cost. The skill originates from USRA, the god of death. It's a double-edged sword, a gift from a god who thrives on human despair. The protagonist realizes the spirit must have been watching his battle intently, waiting for the right moment. He curses in frustration. The god of death, USRA, observes the protagonist through a glowing crystal, activating a collection process. USR clutches the crystal, appearing pleased as the process continues. The spirit of Shylock begins measuring the protagonist's accumulated damage. The spirit delivers judgment by ringing a massive bell-like relic, signaling the end of the evaluation. A countdown begins from 10, marking the start of the penalty phase. As the countdown reaches 8, the protagonist feels his body becoming unbearably heavy. He knows he must move, but it's too difficult. Reaching 7 and 6, he strains to move, but he's unable to take even a single step. His body won't respond. The protagonist crashes to the ground, groaning in pain as the countdown hits 5. He forces himself up with determination, pushing against the ground, countdown at 4. He reveals a hidden vial in his wrist and urgently calls out for emergency healing water. The divine scale begins to react as the countdown continues at 3. The giant bell slams down beside the protagonist as the countdown reaches 2, signaling his time is almost up. The masked judge reveals a sinister smile, eyes glowing with malicious intent. The protagonist, desperate to survive, pulls out the emergency healing vial hidden under his bandages. Without hesitation, he drinks the potion, forcing it down as the countdown continues. The massive golden bell crashes into the ground with a thunderous impact, signaling the final moment of judgment. The system detects magical power within the boy, canceling the countdown for soul collection. The masked entity declares the debt will be postponed to a later time, vanishing back into the void. Left barely alive, the boy lies on the ground, gasping for breath as the danger finally subsides. He smirks despite his injuries and says USRA underestimated him, thinking he wouldn't be prepared. He reflects on surviving for a year after humanity's extinction, calling himself a survival expert. Dodging the collection was easy for him. He explains that if he manages his magic power well, the Wall of Iron becomes the most effective and safest skill. The protagonist lies on the ground, recalling that the skill he's thinking about was valued at 500 gold in his previous life. It was commonly used by those trying to escape. He smirks, realizing that affording such a skill in his current situation is impossible. With a cocky grin, he raises his middle finger toward the sky, mocking his enemy and sarcastically thanking them. The masked figure erupts in rage, violently crushing something in his hand as blood splatters everywhere. The protagonist slowly opens his eyes, showing signs of regaining consciousness. He sits up slightly, confused, wondering if he had fainted. His thoughts echo. He doesn't recognize the place and questions where he is. A cheerful nun-like woman leans in, asking if he slept well and had a good dream. The scene zooms out, revealing him tied to a bed with chains while tools for torture lie nearby, and eerie figures stand ready. The protagonist wakes up suddenly, confused and alarmed, asking what's going on. A nun-like woman calmly explains that he's in her workshop and assures him not to worry. She smiles and informs him that while he was in a deep sleep, his loan repayment deadline passed an hour ago. With a chilling smile and intense expression, she mockingly asks if he's crazy. The woman calmly picks up a knife and mentions the man's reckless actions and unpaid debt. She accuses him of stalling the guarantee and delaying interest, concluding he has no intention of repaying the loan. With a deadly glare, she brings the knife dangerously close to his eye, making her threat clear without saying a word. Enraged, she raises the glowing knife and screams, demanding if he ever planned to repay his loans. Panicking, the man remembers his debt. He mentally pleads to avoid using magic, knowing it'll trigger another collection attempt. He tries to negotiate, saying he'll get dungeon rewards next week, and asks for time. The nun angrily raises her sword, demanding repayment for all outstanding loans, including daily store interest, calling out his lies about the dungeon being an easy kobold lair. Her eyes burn with fury as she asks if he plans to sell his organs to pay off the debt. She calls for her men, and two intimidating henchmen respond without hesitation. One of the henchmen cuts the rope binding the protagonist's hand, preparing for forceful action. The two men restrain him on the table as one of them lifts a blade, ready to amputate. The woman, with a sinister smile, says she'll just cut off one of his fingers to help him come to his senses. She mocks him for underestimating their temple. Panicked, the man desperately tries to buy time, shouting for her to wait and struggling to recall something important. His internal monologue reveals that he's trying hard to remember a name, something he believes is crucial in this situation. Ignoring his plea, the woman furiously commands her men to cut off his finger immediately. One of the enforcers raises a knife high, ready to sever the protagonist's finger as ordered. The protagonist screams in desperation, trying to stall for time. A close-up shows his clenched teeth, building tension as he tries to recall something critical. The knife strikes down, but instead of cutting through, it clashes against his finger like steel. The woman, startled by the unexpected resistance, shouts in shock, "Wait!" The woman stands speechless, shocked by what she just witnessed. Her inner monologue reveals disbelief, realizing the man did something impossible. She steps back and asks, "What are you?" while the man smirks confidently, unaffected. Two armed men approach the sister and ask what the problem is. She firmly tells everyone to get out. As they hesitate, she snaps and yells, forcing them to flee in panic. Now alone in the room, she silently stares at the closed door, deep in thought. The woman slams her hand beside the man's head on the pillow, demanding answers with intense emotion. She forcefully says, "Tell me the truth." Her expression turns fierce as she shouts, "How in the world do you know that name?" The man smirks slightly, confidently replying, "How would it be possible to not know that name, sister?" The protagonist confidently reveals her secret identity, calling her the monster broker, White Rose, catching her completely off guard. A visual narration explains that Anna Primrose, a sister of the Shrine of Light, also lives a double life as White Rose, a broker who deals with monster corpses, equipment, and information through her ties to the underworld. The protagonist reflects on the dangers of entering raid dungeons with cheap hunter equipment, showing shattered weapons to emphasize the risk. He concludes that he must negotiate with the woman, Anna, to secure better gear, leaving her sweating and stunned by how much he knows. The man confidently tells the sister that he was already coming to find her and jokes about being happy she picked him up. He then suggests she untie him, pointing out how awkward it is to negotiate while he's still tied to the bed. The scene shifts to a peaceful view of the moonlit night outside. The man proposes they have a serious and productive conversation, now that everyone else has left. A nighttime aerial shot reveals a chapel lit from within, setting the stage for the coming chaos. Inside, objects are violently smashed as Sahak suddenly erupts in anger. The nuns are caught off guard and scream in panic. Sahak sits up on the bed, overwhelmed by emotion. The nuns desperately try to calm him down, clearly unprepared for his reaction. Sahak recalls a bitter memory, an earlier confrontation with the white-haired man, who coldly tells him he has no right to carry the thing he holds. This flashback fuels Sahak's rising fury. With eyes full of rage, Sahak vows to kill him with his own hands. His fury has reached its peak, and his thirst for revenge is clear. The sound of a mug falling echoes as someone steps in. A stern voice demands to know who's causing a disturbance in the hospital. The man who entered is revealed, Sir Ned. His presence immediately commands attention and silences the room. Sahak, startled, sits upright and addresses Sir Ned. Ned, calm and composed, tells him to lie back down and takes control of the situation. He dismisses the healers, assuring them he'll handle it himself. Ned calmly tells Sahak that he's already heard the story about what happened to him. Sahak looks down, visibly remorseful. He apologizes, admitting his mistake, but tries to downplay the situation, saying it's not worth worrying about. In a sudden shift, Ned draws his blade and presses it into Sahak's mouth, silencing him instantly. Sahak is frozen, eyes wide in shock. With a cold glare, Ned scolds Sahak. He reveals that everyone he encountered tonight is talking about the incident, demanding how Sahak can claim it's nothing to worry about. Sahak recalls the words of Lord Matthias, who always told him never to do anything that would bring shame to their name. Ned, seething with anger, scolds Sahak for disgracing himself in front of the slaves, likening his defeat to that of a useless dog. Ned forcefully presses the blade into Sahak's mouth, showing no mercy and tightening his grip. With a swift motion, Ned slices through, causing Sahak to scream in agony as blood flies from his mouth. Blood drips from Sahak's wounded mouth. Ned coldly reflects on the past, saying he once believed Sahak had special talent when he discovered the demon god worshipper, but now that belief has faded. Ned stands behind Sahak, reminding him that despite past accomplishments, he's only found 2 demon god worshippers in the past 6 months. Ned's expression turns cold as he says the upper echelon has lost confidence in Sahak and questions how much longer they must tolerate him. Sahak reacts in shock and fear as Ned declares that Sahak has made the holy department a public embarrassment. Desperate, Sahak throws himself to the ground, begging Ned for one last chance to prove himself. Sahak bows down in desperation, begging for a second chance, saying he'll do anything. The man responds coldly, telling him they'll proceed as they always have, as Sahak trembles on the ground. Sahak is given a harsh order. He must not let those who've brought shame live. His fate will be decided only after fulfilling this command. He reflects on the consequences. Failing this mission means losing his crimson uniform, his identity and honor. A wrapped bundle is thrown toward Sahak with a chilling instruction: use this. Sahak catches the object and reacts in shock as he begins to recognize it. Unwrapping the bundle reveals a terrifying item, a mask and orb belonging to a demon god worshipper. Sahak, visibly shocked, clutches the forbidden object and says, "Sir, isn't this?" The superior replies, "It was in the room of the demon god worshipper you captured that time. Although it's up to you whether you use it or not." With a cold, unwavering gaze, he continues, "However, You don't have the leisure to choose the means of doing your task. Sahak kneels in silence, haunted by the words, "Make a decision you won't regret." Left in silence, Sahak kneels alone, staring at the closed door, burdened by the gravity of the mission ahead. Sahak is introduced with a fearsome reputation. He's known as the Crazy Dog, the sworn enemy of all hunters, and is responsible for killing 26 of them in the past year. A mocking voice laughs at the idea of Sahak returning to the life of a slave after all he has done. The laughter grows louder. A sinister grin appears, declaring that returning now is no different from asking to be killed by the slaves. Sahak clenches the dark orb in his hand, raging at the cruelty of his fate. He laments how his life had finally begun to improve, only to be dragged back into misery. Consumed by desperation, Sahak decides to fight back. He declares that he won't let it end here. In his eyes, it's not him who will die. It's the white-haired man standing in his way. Sahak laughs loudly alone in his room, his voice echoing with madness. Ned orders his subordinate to keep a close watch on Sahak to avoid any future problems. The subordinate responds affirmatively. Ned reflects that people must understand their reality from an objective perspective to avoid being discarded like Sahak. He mocks the idea of Sahak having talent, stating that Sahak never understood the real reason they accepted someone like him. Ned casually remarks that Sahak unintentionally helped them. Because of Sahaka's erratic behavior, the knights have become less suspicious of their activities. Ned outlines their plan. They will infiltrate the knights' dungeon raid, intercept important items, eliminate the shrine knight captain, and claim the 3rd District Shrine of Light for the demon god. The scene shows the symbol of the demon god, emphasizing that this mission holds great importance for the future of their religious order. Ned affirms that he cannot allow any disturbances to jeopardize their goal. Ned instructs his subordinate to investigate someone suspicious. The white-haired man is shown using a martial art style specific to their school, raising suspicions. Ned realizes that only he, his master, and 3 other brothers know those techniques. He questions whether the man was sent by the master, and if so, why he hasn't contacted them properly. Ned suspects the white-haired man and decides not to approach him directly to avoid leaking information. Instead, he plans to use Sahak to confirm his suspicions. He prepares himself mentally, knowing that if the man turns out not to be an ally, consequences will follow. With a cold, determined look, Ned resolves to eliminate him if he's not on their side. The girl is stunned, trying to process what just happened. She initially thought the man was just insane. But now, standing before the corpse of a massive monster, she's overwhelmed by the result. The man casually asks if she likes it. She responds, half shocked, half sarcastic, questioning if she's really supposed to enjoy this. The priestess clears her throat and prepares to organize the transaction details. A list appears showing the sale of a predator's corpse and the items they aim to purchase: advanced holy artifacts, enchanted items, and rare herbs. She explains that while all items are obtainable, the real challenge is the cost, 5,000 gold. To afford this, they must hunt 3 more predators. The protagonist confidently assures her that he'll take care of everything within 3 weeks and asks her to have the item ready by then. He shifts the mood and glances toward the shelf, indicating he has something else in mind. He smirks slightly and says he wants to ask for another favor. As Zephyr continues on his path of strength and survival, a vengeful Sahak waits in the shadows, hungry for payback. But a new force emerges: Ned, whose calm gaze hides a storm even deadlier. When these 3 fates collide, who will fall and who will rise? To find out, help this video reach 200 likes, and I'll continue unfolding this thrilling story.